Thank you very much. I am so deeply honored and humbled to be before you today. This is one of the great honors of my life. Of course, I have to begin by saying thank you to Carnegie Mellon. Thank you, of course, to the I&I. Thank you to the CMU staff, to my family who's joining me today, and parents, friends, of course, Dena. Without them, I'm not here today, so I have to give thanks to all those who supported me over the years. I'm also deeply honored to have the opportunity to dedicate a good portion of this speech to Dr. Dena Haritos Tsamitis. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And, you know, being back here today, coming back to Carnegie Mellon, the place where my graduate studies began more than 20 years ago, this is one of the great honors of my life. I'm glad to be here. But I'll be brief because I know that I'm standing in the way of celebrations with your friends, your family, and I know you're looking forward to that. But the theme of my speech today is very simple. The theme of my speech is time. And so what does that mean? What do I mean by just time? Well, just to get into that a little bit further, so, in physics today, in modern physics, there is kind of a debate. You know, some people debate that time started with the Big Bang. Others say, well, no, time, the passage of time is actually not real. It's just an illusion that we perceive. There's other things that were discovered about time. You know, if you move faster through space, time actually slows down. So despite all the theories, one thing I do know about time is that it's limited. And so what you need to do is, no matter how much wealth, no matter how much success, no matter how much you accumulate over the years, just remember that your time is valuable, it's limited, and there's the one thing you cannot get back. So my message to you, my fellow graduates, is value your time, act with urgency, act with purpose, and go about your life as if every moment is precious and there's not a second to waste. So I'm gonna compare time to a thief, stealing moment by moment, second by second. But I prefer to think of time as maybe an enabler. If it wasn't for time, I would actually be back here with you, walking up and down Craig Street with my backpack on, getting all-you-could-eat lunches from the Star of India restaurant for $5. And we used to pack the carton so tightly that the curry would drip out the side, and we would split the meal among us other I&I students. If it wasn't for time, I would still be with my I&I colleagues working late on perhaps an enterprise architecture project, maybe a programming assignment with my classmates, Guillermo, while my office mate, Vignesh, was cracking jokes. I might be working on my master's thesis under the guidance of Dr. LaTanya Sweeney and her data privacy renowned laboratory. Perhaps I'd be at the movies with some of my friends, Human, Rami, Rudy, Dee, Chuck, and Leo, some of my fellow I&I colleagues. Or perhaps I'd be down in the CMU gym working to perfect the exercise regimen that I still do to this day. Working out with my I&I classmate, Kevin, as he worked to go enter to the Mr. Pittsburgh competition. Or perhaps I might be gathered with my I&I classmates around a television screen as President Bush announced that the US was entering Iraq. One of the things that time allows is for me to share the same physical space, this beautiful city, the CMU campus, the I&I, with you. And so I'm pleased that I had my turn, I was able to move on, and now it's your time to graduate and have those same experiences over the years. And I'm truly grateful for that because I'm predicting, as I'm looking out at all of you, that you will have some of that same success, and in time, some of you may even be standing here where I'm standing today. But because of how limited time is, what I need all of you to do is to become time travelers. Now, what I mean by that is not literally time travelers, of course, because at least for what we know today, that's not possible. But what I mean by that is to use the cheat code. So instead of going through your life sort of trying to learn, stumbling through, figuring things out on your own, take advantage of folks that have done it before you. Look for that person in the office with the gray hair. Talk to your mentors, read and continue to study. Project yourself into the future and leverage the knowledge that others have already accumulated and continue to do that day after day, year after year. I'll kick things off by helping you out with a little bit of guidance from me. For example, don't go blindly into life learning how to try to acquire wealth on your own, but instead continue to read, learn from those who've learned about the power of compounding interest, exponential growth. Learn how time and compounding can work in your favor. Read and learn about real estate, business, organizational dynamics. Get certifications. Learn about project management, how to secure networks. You don't have to accept the world as it is, and you can change it for the better. But I have to warn you, the journey to get there is not an easy road to travel. It is going to take persistence. It may sometimes take putting in long hours. And so it's going to be important that you steel your body, steel your mind, take care of yourself, eat right, exercise, because it is going to be a long journey, and you're going to need each other. So take care of yourselves, keep in touch with each other, because it is going to be something that you must fortify yourself for the journey ahead. The I&I gave me lifelong friends that I still check in with to this very day, and I encourage you all to do the same. So now I mentioned that this speech was dedicated to Dr. Dena Haritos Tsamitis. So for this last part of my speech, let's talk briefly about how she spent her time here in the I&I for the last 20 years that she was the director. As she mentioned, I've seen a lot of parallels between my career and Dena's over the last 20 years. She took over as director the very year that I graduated in 2004. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of the impact that Dena had on me on day one, she and the I&I staff had students from Greece participating in remote learning and distance learning technologies. And, granted, they weren't as good as they are today. The picture was a little grainy. We had a hard time hearing the students sometimes, but it worked. And we were pioneers at that time in distance learning, something that you all continue the tradition on today. Back then, we only had about 34 students. Today, the I&I, I'm pleased to hear, is over 300 students. So I want you to think about that for a moment. Not only did Dena elevate students that were here in the US and lift them up, but she went to her home country, lifted up students in Greece, went back to where she came from and lifted them up, and that's a powerful thing. I was fortunate enough to come back with my family to Greece last year. So I was part of the contingent that actually went to Greece with the Greek exchange program. And I was able to stand at the Acropolis in the same place that I stood as a student 20 years ago. And that, once again, showed me the importance of time and how I could be in the same physical place, but how time has changed with me having my wife and kids in that same spot. But Dena didn't just impact me. She continued to organize alumni events around the country, whether it's from California to DC. She continued to expand the program to other cities, countries, taking it to new height, along with the rest of the I&I staff, of course. She started the Winnie Initiative, was a founding member of the SciLab, received so many awards, has been named to so many boards. It's been such an honor to go through my career, but then to look over my shoulder, watch the I&I, and see it continue to grow and thrive for all these years, because you can't always say that about every organization. So for me, what I'm most impressed with is how now the organization is educating 10 times the number of students compared to when I was there. And so I just want to take a moment to just give Dena a round of applause for what she's accomplished for the last 20 years with I&I. In January, Dena came out to Washington, D.C. to present me with the Scholarship for Service Hall of Fame Award for 2024 in front of over 1,000 people. That was the highlight of my career and an incredibly special moment for me. The honor not only me, but also the great work of the I&I. And I'll never forget when the folks like Don McGillen, Dena, Lisa Curran, Tracy Bragg helped me to get the Scholarship for Service scholarship. And that's what launched my career into federal service and helped me to put roofs over my grandmother's and mother's houses with my first paychecks. So I'll always be grateful to the I&I and to the Scholarship for Service for that. Now, finally, in conclusion, when you get that first paycheck, and I know you all will be very successful, I want you to use a portion of that to give something back to Carnegie Mellon, give back to the I&I. Now, one of the things I would encourage all universities to do, not just Carnegie Mellon, is to celebrate even the small donations, $1, $10. I understand that, when someone makes a huge donation, $1 million, $20 million, there's huge receptions and things like that, and that should be celebrated. But also those small donations should be celebrated just as much, because if you think about it, if 1,000 I&I students give $10, that's $10,000 for the school. If they give $100, that's $100,000. And you can imagine where it could go from there. So take the opportunity to give back, no matter how small. The school will be grateful, and you'll be making a big impact. I'm so excited for you and the years that you have ahead of you, and now it's your turn. It's your time. I welcome all of you into the world and to be part of the I&I graduate family. So take advantage, act with purpose, act with urgency, live as though tomorrow is not guaranteed. But for today, right now, in the present, I, your families, all of us, we celebrate you and your achievements. I wish you all the best, and I'll be forever grateful to Carnegie Mellon and the I&I for what you've done for me and for my family. Thank you all today for your time.